Well, good morning. Welcome to Calvary and welcome to the Christmas season. Now, I know you've been hearing Christmas music and advertisements and movies and decorations since Halloween, but I'm old school. Thanksgiving begins Christmas, not all the way back in Halloween. But I want to remind you of something, kind of where we are and where we're headed. You've heard Brad say that we just finished the story, and what we did in that series is we walked through the entire Bible in 6 acts. And one of the things you heard us say numerous times is that even though the Bible is a huge book, the Bible has a point and a purpose. The point is Jesus, and the purpose is to lead us to Him. And that brings us to Christmas. Christmas has a point and a purpose. The point is Jesus, and the purpose is to lead us to Him. Now, part of the complication is there are lots of distractions around Christmas that will keep us from the point and the purpose. So what we're going to do for the month of December, we're going to take 5 installments and look at the Christmas story from different perspectives. We're going to call the 5-part series Christmas Through the eyes of people that were there for the first Christmas, that kind of had a life change because of it. So here's how it's going to go. Next week, we're going to look at Zechariah and Elizabeth. You may say, who the heck are they? That doesn't sound like Chris. No, Zechariah and Elizabeth, they're John the Baptist's parents. And Luke begins to tell us about the Christmas story by starting with John the Baptist, Zechariah, and Elizabeth. So you need to know about those Christmas characters and Christmas through their eyes. Then the following week, we're going to look at Mary and Joseph. I think you understand those two and how they fit into the story. Then on Christmas Eve, we're going to look at Christmas through the eyes of the shepherds and angels. And the week after Christmas, we're going to look at Christmas through the eyes of the magi, the wise guys that show up. But this morning, we're going to look at Christmas through the eyes of John. You may say, wait a minute, John, he wasn't there. I don't remember reading John. You'll see how it fits together in a minute. Question for you as we get started. What word comes to mind when I say Christmas? Well, one word comes to mind. Tell the person next to you. Tell them one word, quick. Don't think about it. What one word? All right, one word should be done by now. All right, good. So maybe it was movies, music, trees, food, cookies, or maybe if you hung out at church, it was one of these words. Manger, Mary, shepherds, angels. Maybe it was one of those words. Well, this morning, as we look at Christmas through the eyes of John, we're going to look at probably, the most important Christmas word. And that word is incarnation. Looking at some of you saying, it's like you're getting dental work for Christmas. Incarnation. What? No, that is the most important Christmas word. We sometimes talk about absolutes, convictions, preferences, right? Absolutes are things you have to believe to be in the family. Convictions, things you may or may not believe, but you need to live in your life. Preferences are things that you prefer. Incarnation is an absolute. Incarnation goes in that center circle. If you don't believe in the incarnation, you're not really a follower of Jesus. You may know about Jesus, but you don't understand and you haven't been impacted by Christmas. So if you have your Bibles, your phone, your iPad, whatever you want to read from, turn to John chapter 1, and I'm going to read the first 14 verses of John chapter 1, and let's look at Christmas through the eyes of John, or maybe even a little better, Christmas through the eyes of God. Here's the big story. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was with God in the beginning. Through Him all things were made. Without Him nothing was made that has been made. In Him was life, and that life was the light of all mankind. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. There was a man sent from God whose name was John. He came as a witness to testify concerning that light, so that through him all might believe. He himself was not the light. He came only as a witness to the light. The true light that gives life to everyone was coming into the world. He was in the world, and though the world was made through him, the world did not recognize him. He came to that which was his own, but his own did not receive him. Yet to all who did receive him, to those who believed in his name, he gave the right to become children of God. Children born not of natural descent, nor of human decision, or of a husband's will, but born of God. The Word became flesh and made his dwelling among us. We have seen his glory, the glory of the one and only Son, who came from the Father, full of grace and truth. Christmas, the Christmas story, the cosmic Christmas story from John chapter 1. So we're going to kind of walk through the passage and look at that most important Christmas word, incarnation. And maybe it's good that we don't have all the distractions about Christmas the first week in December as we look at the point and the purpose, which is Jesus. But who is Jesus and why did he come? Well, the first thing we need to look at this is the road to the incarnation. Did you notice that the first few words I read in John chapter 1? In the beginning. Now, when I read that, what did you think of? Don't read the rest of the verse. In the beginning. Where does your mind automatically go? All the way back to Genesis chapter 1. The Bible begins with the same exact words. So John writes, in the beginning. The writer of Genesis, Moses, he wrote, in the beginning. But what follows is a little different. Moses wrote, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. John writes, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, the Word was God. But John wants us to think in the beginning. He's calling our attention all the way back to Genesis. He's saying to us, Christmas doesn't begin in Bethlehem. The story of Christmas, the road to the incarnation, it's not in the Middle East. The road to the incarnation is the beginning of the Bible, the beginning of the universe, the beginning of the world. Now, what exactly happened at the beginning? Well, if you were here for the first couple installments of the story, you kind of know how that went. We won't rehearse all of that. You can go back and watch those videos online. Here's the point. In the beginning, right, God creates the universe. He creates Adam and Eve, and he says this, don't eat because I said so. I know your kids hate that. You hate that when you were a kid. But that's how it goes. Don't eat because I said so. Now, where does that come? Well, God, he's the creator. He's the king. He gets to kind of make up the rules and call the shots. Don't eat. What did they do? They ate. Now, you may think, that's kind of like stealing a cookie. A little one for... No, it's not. They are rejecting not just what God said. They are rejecting his right to tell them what to do. They're revolting. This is a revolution. This is a coup. What happens when two people or two countries lay claim to one throne? There's a war. When two people lay claim to the same piece of property, there's a war. And when two people, two entities, all the way back in Genesis, lay claim to the same throne, the decision-making throne, what happens? There's a war. And that war begins all the way back in the beginning. A couple chapters in. Interestingly, though, all the way back in the beginning, just a couple chapters in, God makes a promise. And here's the promise in a nutshell. One day, I'm going to come. One day, the true king will come, and he'll make all things right. All hell's going to break loose between now and then. Just letting you know. One day, the true king will show up. And when he shows up, everything will be made right. You know what John writes in chapter 1? The king has arrived. That's what John says. In the beginning was the Word. The Word was... So in the beginning, the Word's already there, right? And for verse 14, it says the Word became... That's Jesus we're referring to. At the beginning, part of creation, nothing came into being apart from him. And John says, now he arrived. The promise that God made all the way back in the beginning, that one day the true king would come to make things right, the king has arrived. That's what Christmas is. The road to the incarnation is all the way back at the beginning. And if you don't understand, it was a revolt, it was a revolution, it was a coup, two entities laying claim to the same throne. That's a war. What's Christmas? The true king has arrived to bring victory to the war. Well, that's kind of the road to the incarnation. Well, let's talk about the reality of the incarnation. We live in a world where Christmas is full of fairy tales and fantasy, and sometimes it's easy to begin to think, the Christmas story, Mary, Joseph, Bethlehem, virgins, wise men, that kind of fits into Snow White, Beauty and the Beast. It kind of fits into all of the fantasy where you have this winning and that winning. No. John says, the Word became flesh and dwelt among us. Other places he writes, we saw him, we heard him, we touched him, we followed him. This really happened. This is history. So this isn't like a fairy tale. This isn't like a fantasy that you read. This isn't like Lord of the Rings. This is Jesus, King of the universe, becoming a human being. That's history. But it's not just history. It is history, right? It's a true story. It's also theology. Now, here's what I mean by theology. Christmas is all about incarnation, and it's about a theological term that you need to kind of know. Christmas is about substitutionary atonement. All right, incarnation, so that's what Christmas is. Now, what's that mean? You understand, right? Substitute and atonement. Here is our problem that Christmas solves. Most Americans think, most people go to church think two things. I'm not that bad, and God's not that mad. Isn't that right? They're like the two chords that most people think. I'm not that bad. I'm better than my neighbor. I'm not that bad. I could be a lot worse than I am. In my mind, I live this crazy life, but I'm not that bad, and God's not that mad. It's God's job to kind of love me, kind of follow me around, protect me. I'm not that bad. God's not that mad. You know what? If you live by those two statements, I'm not that bad, God's not that mad, you don't need Christmas. In fact, if you're not that bad and I'm not that bad, God's not that mad, we don't need Christmas because we then can change it. We say, Christmas is about Jesus showing up, and Jesus is a good teacher. What do good teachers do? They instruct you on how you should live and what you should do. Well, Jesus is a good teacher, but he's not only a good teacher. Jesus is a good example. He is a good example, but he's not only an example. If Jesus is only a good teacher who comes to give instruction, then the ball's in your court. You don't need a substitute. You can atone for your own sin. That's self-help. We talk about that a lot, right? If Jesus is just an example, he doesn't tell you the way to live. He shows you the way to live. Now you go live it. That's a denial of the incarnation. That's a denial of substitutionary atonement. The message of Christmas is, you are that bad. God is that mad. And in order to solve your predicament, God had to become a human being as your substitute. You can't make this thing correct. You can't follow the rules. You can't follow his example. You need rescue. That's what Jesus came to do. That's what Christmas is. We are that bad. God is that mad. And Christmas is about God solving that particular dilemma. Now we got a third thing we have to look at. And maybe this is the point of the passage. What's the reason for the incarnation? I kind of like that, John just lays it out for us, right? He gives us the road, he gives us the reality, and then he gives us the reason. Let me read verses 12 and 13 for you. Yet to all who received him, to those who believed in his name, he gave the right to become children of God. Children born not of natural descent, nor of human decision or a husband's will, but born of God. That's the reason. Now let me kind of break it down for you in this way. What's the reason for the incarnation? Well, we've sung about it today. Brad mentioned it today. Emmanuel. What's part of the reason? God is with us. But not just with us. God is for us. God is with us. And God, that's what Christmas, the incarnate, the reason for it is to show that God is with us and God is for us. So let me read a couple of statements then to kind of back up what I'm saying about with us and for us. Jesus shows up as a human being, right? And here in a sense is what Christmas says. Your journey is my journey. Your past is my past. Your record is my record. Your penalty is my penalty. Your punishment is my punishment. And all that I have and am, I give to you. That's not a bad trade, is it? We trade all of our junk and get all of his glory. We trade our penalty, we trade our record, we trade our past, and we get his record, we get his person, we get his access to God. We trade all of our junk, and we get all of his glory. God is with us, and he's for us. He doesn't just come as a teacher, barking orders to follow. He doesn't come as a model only, saying, hey, follow me. What's he? He comes as our substitute. Think of it this way. If you were drowning in a pool, you don't know how to swim, and there you are kind of in 12 feet flailing away, you're anxious and you're going down for like the 5th time, you're exhausted. Do you really need somebody on the side of the pool saying, wait a minute, I've got the swimming manual here, let me show you. Put your right hand behind your head and move it forward. Kick your feet. You don't need somebody standing on the side of the pool barking orders how to swim, do you? You don't need somebody to say, well, here, watch me, and jump in over here. And what do you need somebody to jump in and come grab you and save you. That's what Jesus does. He's not on the side telling us how to live and what to do. He's with us, and he's for us. The second thing that John mentions and he unpacks in the rest of his gospel, Jesus gives forgiveness and deliverance. Forgiveness and deliverance. Now, I know you know a lot about names, right? So let me show you how this works. The name Jesus is kind of a Greek way to say Joshua. And Joshua is kind of an anglicized way to say Yeshua. Hebrew doesn't have a J sound, right? So Jesus is Joshua. Joshua is Yeshua. What did Joshua do in the Old Testament? Do you think that God just kind of quit? Yeah, I really like how Jesus sounds. Man, I'm going to name him Jesus. No, there's a root that goes all the way back. What did Joshua do? He led the people of Israel into the promised land, into the place that God had prepared, into that land flowing with milk and honey, into the place of presence and peace. What does Jesus do? Jesus, the ultimate Joshua, leads us into the presence of God, into all of the benefits that come that bring peace. Isn't peace one of the key words we hear at Christmas, right? What did the angels say? They come to bring peace on earth. Yeah, Jesus, he's not just, he is a good teacher. That's not his ultimate task. He is a model and example. That's not the ultimate thing. He is our rescuer who gives us and delivers forgiveness and deliverance. One last thing. We could talk a lot of others. Adoption. This is kind of the main point, right? To them who believed in his name, he gave the right to become children of God. So let me say it like this. We'll kind of thread the needle a little bit here. God ultimately has one natural son. Jesus is the only natural son. That's what it says here. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God. Father has one natural son. And lots of adopted kids. We're not natural sons of God in the sense of Jesus. We're adopted. But who is it that does the adopting, and who is the natural son, our elder brother. A lot of the carol writers knew, so I'm going to make sure you're all awake. I'm not going to sing. I'm going to state some words to a carol, and then I'm going to stop and you finish it, okay? Don't sing it either, right? We want people to hang. How about this one? Hark the herald angels sing, glory to the newborn. Oh, you knew that, right? How about this one? O come, all ye faithful, joyful and triumphant. O come ye to Bethlehem. Come and behold him, born the King of angels. Born thy people to deliver, born a child, and yet a joy to the world. The Lord is come. Let earth receive her. Yeah. We've been adopted into the King's family. Remember all the way back to the first time we read in the beginning? There was a revolt, there was a rejection, there was a revolution. God was rejected as king, but he made a promise. One day the true king will come, and the true king will pay your way back, and as followers of the true king, you can get this thing right, and you can return. You can have access. You can come back. John says, the king has arrived. And he fills in a little bit of the details and says, and you can be adopted into his family. And you know what happens when you get adopted? Not only do you get all the privileges of living in the family, you get the code to get in the house, right? They probably give you a key. Maybe you get to use the car once in a while, if you're old enough, right? You get all the benefits of being a... Oh, yeah. And you become an heir. Not an heir of someone who doesn't have anything. We become heirs of the King of the universe. So I want to end with a question. A question I want you to keep in mind and play with the rest of this month, right? I'm not giving homework, right? You don't have time for homework this month. But I want this question to kind of bounce around your head. How should we respond to the incarnation? Now, let me answer the question by asking another one. How many of you are parents? Raise your hand. We got a whole bunch of you, yeah. Okay, good. Put them down. When the kids entered your situation, did they bring any changes to your life or no? A couple things changed, right? Oh, yeah, I made a list the other day. Here are just a few of the things that changed. Schedule change. You ever notice that? Your life is no longer your own, right? You hit that certain age, you become chauffeur to all these different events. Then all of a sudden, one of them gets to drive. They get that duty, right? And then you're worried to death what they're going to do when they're out there with the car. Your budget changes, doesn't it? All of a sudden, it used to be, you and your spouse, you could do whatever you earned. All of a sudden now, the two of you are like the last on the list. The kids have all this stuff they want, all this stuff they need. It changes the budget a little bit. How about your priorities? They're exactly the same, right? No. All of a sudden, your priorities are so intertwined and wrapped up around the kids that you can't make a decision without, what are the kids going to do? What are we going to do for babysitters? Are they going to be upset? Isn't it true? I heard this expression once, and it rings true every time I hear it or think of it. As a parent, you are only as happy as the least happy of your children. Isn't that right? When your kids are born, somehow your heart gets welded to theirs. And you can only be as happy as your least happy kid. How about your values? Did they change? In fact, everything changes. A couple little people enter your life and everything changes. What has changed in your life if the King of the universe stepped into your life? I'll say it as nicely as I can. If the incarnate Son of God, King of the universe, has not made any changes in your life, I doubt that you ever experienced Christmas. If a little kid or two can reorient our entire lives, what kind of changes do you think the King of the universe would make if he stepped into our lives? So one of the questions we're going to seek to answer each week, what changes were brought into the characters' lives that were looking at Christmas through their eyes? And what changes need to take place in my life if I'm going to experience Christmas? One big change that we talked about today. If in the first beginning, the roles were reversed and we laid claim to the true King's throne, you know what the incarnation means? You put him back on the throne. He's the only one that deserves to sit there. And we live in submission and praise to him. Let's pray. Father, we give you thanks for Christmas through the eyes of John. And maybe it's Christmas without